Hearts of Oak. Thanks for joining us on another pre-record interview with Matt Strickland coming up in a moment. And for those of you starting in the UK don't know Matt, he's a small business owner. In fact, he's a veteran. 15 years he served in the US military in Iraq and Afghanistan. He then came home to Civvy Street, started a restaurant. Cooking was his passion. And for 7 years, he's worked very hard at building that business. And he got to a point where he was looking at expanding, and then COVID restrictions hit. He opposed those. He did not submit to the madness. If people want to wear a mask, they can. If they don't want to wear a mask, they don't have to. Just whatever. He let people get on with things as they were. Because as a restaurant, you obviously cannot work from home. You have to be out there in the community. So he opposed that, and the system, the state came down on him. They raided him, and he wanted to actually push back on that. And the way he thought he could do was to run for politics. So he's running for the Virginia Senate. He's a candidate. Primaries are in May. The election is in November. And Matt exemplifies the American dream. Patriotism, hard work, military service, family man, Christian values. It's what the American dream is built upon. So tune in, watch Matt discuss his story, which is how the American dream should be worked out in the 21st century. And I know you will be inspired. And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thank you once again for joining us. And it is absolute delight to talk to someone who I met when I was last over stateside, and that is Matt Strickland. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Peter.
Great to have you on. And we'll be talking about Matt's run for the Virginia Senate. You can see underneath his name at Matt for VA. That is Virginia. To our UK viewers, that is his Twitter handle. And mattforva.com is his campaign website. I'd encourage you to go have a look at that. If you're not US based, you still may want to look at it and see how an individual, a candidate running for office, why they're running. It's worthwhile, as I know you, our viewers and listeners, even if you're not US based, you're probably very interested in politics, and probably Matt's run for Virginia is more exciting than anything happening in the UK. So do make use of that. But if I could just start off, Matt, your story, I guess, is kind of the American dream. You live in the same state where your generations of your family have lived. You've served your country in the military, started a business, running for political office, family man, married with 4 children. It's the model, I guess, on which America was built: family, hard work, and service. And maybe we'll start earlier on, your military life. I think at 17, you joined the US military. Do you want to tell us about your reasons for joining? Was that a family decision, your personal? Well, what kind of made you at 17 to want to put your name forward and join the military?
Well, Peter, to be honest with you, the main reason I joined is I grew up in some pretty rough neighborhoods here in Virginia, and we got 5 brothers and 3 sisters. 2 brothers older than me. My oldest brother, he was murdered by gang violence in 1996, and my other older brother, he was involved in gangs as well. He's been in prison since 1997. I've got 3 brothers that are younger than me as well, and what I wanted to do was prove to them that the route that my 2 older brothers took was not the only route available to us. I wanted to set a better example for them. And when you're growing up, in neighborhoods that are poverty stricken, and you don't have a lot of money, you don't come from money. There's only a couple ways to get out of the situation you're in, and one way in the United States of America is by joining the military and making something of yourself. So I joined the military, one, because of my love for my country. My grandfather. So my family, like you stated before, my family has been in Virginia, since Virginia started, and we fought in every war that the United States has had, and we've done it as Virginians. And so the military has always been in the back of my mind, and something I've always been interested in pursuing once I got older, because I wanted to continue that tradition of service that my family has been in. And then also, like I said, it was a way for me to make something out of myself that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do in the situation I was in. So I joined the Army at 17 years old. And I think I set a pretty good example for my little brothers. The one under me, he's an aerospace engineer. The
Oh.
next one is a computer scientist, and then the one under him is a professional poker player, and he makes more money than all of us.
I'd
And
I'd love to sit and chat to your younger brother. I studied aerospace, and my
oh,
life, I wanted to fly commercially or military, and actually, what happened to me what happened to you at the start of your military career, I guess, happened to me when I was going to start out with a career, and that was 9/11. And that was the end
mm,
of any career in the aerospace industry for me personally. But for you, that was just the very beginning. I think you what enlisted like the day before
well,
9/11. Well, what was that like?
yeah, well, I enlisted actually at 17 years old in March of 2001. So I went through basic training, advanced individual training. So I was a combat medic, so an infantry medic. Um, when I got through all of my training, I got to my first unit, and that was 25th Infantry. So I got to my first unit on September 10th, 2001. And the
Wow.
next day was 9/11.
Wow.
So, I spent majority of the next decade fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting alongside of a lot of guys, from the UK. Got to meet um, a bunch of uh, a bunch of other patriots from other countries that were warriors as well, and I really enjoyed that time. Um, I got with a company, as you can see behind me, called Blackwater, and did the private military contracting thing as well, and I loved it. So one thing that taught me is that the private sector does everything way better than the government. So it was just way more efficient, just planning missions, conducting missions, and not having all the red tape to deal with. I love that world. It was when I was with Blackwater, it was mostly all special forces guys, Navy SEALs, Rangers, and it gave me a different perspective because I was just a regular infantry, regular Army, regular infantry combat medic. So being on teams with the special operators, it opened up a whole nother world to me that the military was about, and I just truly enjoyed it. And joining the Army at 17 years old was something that obviously changed my life. It gave me the discipline that I didn't know I needed.
Mm.
And, it gave me the job training and skills that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. And obviously helped me earn money for college. And so before that, I mean, the last grade I completed was ninth grade. I didn't even complete high school. I got my GED and I went to the military because I dropped out of school to work. I had to make money. And curriculum, academics has always come pretty easy to me. And I got my GED and took the exam to get into the military and scored pretty well. Since I've completed my degree in business and actually graduated towards the top of my class in doing so. But that was my life and how it started, and I wouldn't change a thing about it because the path that God led me on, it made me the man I am today. And I know you hear that all the time. People say it all the time, but I truly believe if I didn't go through all the trials and tribulations that I went through as a child, or even as a military service member, that I would not have the perspective on life and on my country and really the worldview that I have today. So after I did the private military thing,
Can I ask you about just one
absolutely.
thing? Because going obviously to Iraq and Afghanistan,
Mhm.
I remember I was prior to this, I was chatting to my 7-year-old, and I mentioned talking to someone who's in the military. They serve in Iraq, Afghanistan. And he said, that sounds very dangerous. And that whole concept of, I mean, you could have gone to Germany, it would have been, but Iraq, Afghanistan, it's right there on the front. Your life is in danger every day. It's not in the middle of Europe or something. What was that like? Because I guess when people join the army, they don't necessarily expect, certainly from the beginning, to end up on the front line, to be
Yeah.
facing life and death each day. And that's what you faced right from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. Deploying for the first time is scary.
Hmm.
I'd be lying to you if I told you anything different, because you don't know what's going to happen. All you know is you're going to another country to fight people that want to kill you, and it's very scary. But once you get into that first firefight, all of the fear leaves you, and then especially for me, seeing the first time one of my brothers was killed overseas, that really flipped the switch for me and took all the fear that I had in being combat away. All I wanted to do it from that point on um, was make sure that as many of them paid as I could, as I possibly could. And I'll tell you, so a lot of times when even the generations before me were at war, especially my generation, none of us really knew what the hell we were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan fighting, what we were actually fighting for.
Yeah.
All they told us is we're going to fight terrorists to make sure that they don't bring the terrorism to our front doorstep here in America. And that'll motivate the hell out of anybody who's a patriot. So that's what we were fighting for. As I've gotten older and as I've matured, I realized that the reasons we were in Iraq and Afghanistan um, weren't what we thought it was for, and that there was a lot of corruptness going on. But at the time, when you're over there as a young soldier, um, you're fighting for each other, and that's it. So you're fighting for the man to the left and the right of you, and all you care about, you don't care about the big picture. All you care about is making sure that your buddy stays alive and making sure that you kill more of the people that are trying to kill you. And that's it. I mean, it's so simple when it comes to the common soldier's mindset. It's survival is all it is. So yeah, it is scary, but I'll tell you another thing. It's addicting. So once you've done it for a while and you realize you're good at it, and you also realize you're part of the biggest superpower on the face of the earth. Because one
Mhm.
thing about the United States military is that there is no other military stronger than us on the face of this earth, and that's evident in the fact that I told you I worked with a lot of different militaries overseas, and you can tell the respect that's given to you just because you're a part of the United States military. They know you're the greatest fighting force on the face of this earth, and it's just something. It's just a sense of pride that it gives you, knowing that you're just a small piece of that. Not I mean not to take away from other countries. I mean, there's especially UK fighters from all different countries, man. I mean, there are some warriors that I met overseas that can fight just as well as us, here in the United States of America. But we just, we put a lot more money into our military, a lot more training. We got the best training on earth, and we have this patriot mindset that we love our country. Americans, we tend, the perspective I got being overseas, the pride that we have in our country is
Mm.
unmatched by any
Yep.
other. And I believe it's, because of the way our country was formed and what has been instilled in us. A lot of other countries, especially those third world countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. So like for Afghans, there not a lot of them have Afghan pride. It's more tribalism.
Yeah.
So they're more they're committed to their tribe, or they're committed to their Islamic, faith, and that's what they're about. Americans, we bleed red, white, and blue, and we will die for our country, and that's the difference. But I loved it. It was scary at first, like I said, but it's something that becomes addicting when you find out you're good at it. But my wife, she told me, she said, "Hey, Matt, you've been overseas for almost 10 years now. You've got 4 kids, so it's time to come home." And so I found a job here at home working as an intelligence analyst. So I did that for about half a decade. I worked as an intelligence analyst for the military. And I learned some things working as an intel analyst about my country that I didn't like.
Mm.
And I also learned something about myself, and that is that I don't like the office life. I'm not a guy that likes sitting behind a computer. I don't like sitting at the computer reading reports of guys doing what I used to do. I'd rather be
Yeah.
on the other side of the computer kicking indoors myself. So I didn't enjoy it for too long, but when ISIS started ravaging Iraq and taking over Iraq and killing innocent Christians just because they were Christians, I felt it was my opportunity to go back to Iraq and kind of, finish what I started. And I'm a Christian myself, so I felt it was my duty to go back to Iraq and help save as many Christian lives as I could. So I convinced my wife to allow me to do so. So I went back to Iraq in 2014, and I was there for 2 years. I fought ISIS until 2016, and at that point, my wife said, "All right, now you got to come home and figure out what you're going to do here in the States. Your kids need you. I need you." I've always known I wanted to be a small business owner. And the reason for that is because I'm a very self-motivated person. And I like to see, I don't like making the same amount of money every 2 weeks, no matter how hard I work or how hard I don't work.
Yeah.
I'm a very self-motivated person, and I want my paycheck to reflect how hard I do work. And that is what small business ownership is all about. If you don't bust your ass, you're not going to make any money. However, if you work hard, your paycheck will reflect that. And I've always wanted to be a restaurant owner specifically because one of my biggest hobbies, even though I've never worked in the restaurant industry, one of my biggest hobbies has always been cooking. I love cooking. I just love creating something from nothing and watching somebody else enjoy what I created. It just, it just makes me feel good, man, to see something that I was able to create. Other people are really enjoying it as well as much as I do. So my wife and I started a food truck when I came home in 2016 called Gourmelts. And we just took gourmet and melts and combined the two, got Gourmelts out of it. And so what we do is melts, grilled cheeses. And I chose that because grilled cheeses are kind of a blank canvas. You can do so much with them.
Yeah.
And we do. I mean, we do brisket melts, we do pulled pork melts, grilled chicken melts, you name it. We're very, it's a unique restaurant that's unlike any other, and we have fun with our menu. And so it took off. It grew to 2 trucks, 3 trucks. And then eventually in 2018, we opened the first restaurant version of Gourmelts, and that took off. And probably a week or two before COVID happened in March of 2020, I was this close to signing another lease on another building and opening up the second Gourmelts location. But God was looking out for me. There was something in the contract I didn't like, so I didn't sign it. We were working those terms out, and then COVID hit. And that's when it really changed.
Well, let me pick up on that just about the business. I mean, it's trying something new and building that up from a couple of food trucks, and then you have your actual restaurant. And I've been there. Great venue, great location, great building, and kind of as a business owner, you sit back and you think, actually, you haven't been a chef and trained for this. You haven't necessarily been to business school and trained. It's just you want to do something, and you've come back from the military. There's nothing else. You have to do something, and you make it work. And that entrepreneur attitude, I guess, is exciting, and that's what others need to hear. And if others are struggling, they need to know they can push through, and you can actually make it happen.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And if anybody is trying to get a small business off the ground and they're struggling and they just want to quit, you are not alone. Trust me, there are many times along this journey, when I just owned the food trucks and even when I owned the restaurant, that I told myself, if somebody would just come give me the amount of money that I've already put in this business, I'll walk away.
Yeah.
And because it is tough, and sometimes it seems that, maybe you bit off more than you can chew, and maybe this is not going to work out like you thought it would, but you don't have that person that's going to come give you the money that you put in. So you have no choice but to drive on and push through and make it work and make it happen. So that's what I did. And eventually I got to a point where I look back and wow, man, I'm glad nobody offered me the money that I put in here, because now, we're in a lot better position. And now I've got it to the point that I thought I would be able to get it to, which is being successful and actually, finally turning a profit. And just doing what I enjoy doing, and now I go to work for, 12 hours a day, and it feels like I was there for 2 hours because I love doing what I do. And I think that, people, you spend so much time of your life at work. So one thing I tell my kids is when you're trying to choose a career path, don't do it by the amount of money that you make in that career.
Yeah.
Choose something that you honestly enjoy because you're going to spend a lot of your time doing that. So I'm glad I drove on. I'm glad I carried on, and we've gotten to a point now, like I said, where we're starting to reap some of the benefits. So anybody out there struggling, keep pushing, keep driving. It will be. If you One thing I realize is this: that if you're a hard worker and you truly enjoy something and you're very passionate about it, like I am cooking, you're going to be successful at it. If you got those two things, if you got work ethic and you truly enjoy something, you can make a career out of that and you can be successful at it.
Hmm. Tell us, COVID hits. Now, for many people, when it all hits, some people can stay at home, some people can work at home, some people, like a restaurant owner, you, that's not an option. So, how did it affect you whenever everything happened and restrictions? What were the restrictions in Virginia, and how did it affect you as a restaurant owner?
Yeah, well, so when I opened Gourmelts, even the food truck, when I came home in 2016, um, I took my old job back as an intelligence analyst just to supplement the income while we were building the company. And so in 2020, I was still working, part time as an intelligence analyst. And when COVID happened in March of 2020, they shut my entire skiff down that I worked at. So they told my entire program, which was a very important program, national security wise, they told us all to go home and they don't know when we're going to be able to come back. And
Wow.
obviously, we can't do any work from home because all of our work has to be done in a top secret facility.
Yeah.
So for that to happen, it set the alarm bells off with me. And it made me, tell myself, hey, maybe this is something that's probably pretty serious if they're sending us home. It's probably something you want to pay attention to and take serious. I thought it was a virus that was going to kill half the world, like they were telling us. So I did take heed of the warnings and I listened to the recommendations of the governor at the time. I shut my restaurant down for 3 months, from March of 2020 to June of 2020. And in June of 2020, the governor said, okay, restaurants, you guys can open back up, but under these provisions. And the provisions were, um, you had to wear a mask walking into the restaurant, but as soon as you sit down at a table, somehow magically you're safe from COVID.
Just the same in the UK.
Yeah. Nobody's allowed to sit at my bar, but I can pull a table up to the bar and you can sit at that table. Just totally arbitrary rules and mandates that I quickly realized were not about health and safety. I realized very early on that they were about control. And I fought in a lot of countries where dictatorships ruled. And I was not going to allow a dictatorship to rule in my country. So I knew I had to fight back. So my wife and I talked about it. And we came to the conclusion that, we teach our children to make sure they stand up and fight for what's right, no matter what the consequences will be for them. If they
Mm.
know it's right, they got to fight for it. And we can't teach our children that if we're not willing to do so ourselves. So we fought back by not complying. And because I didn't comply with the COVID mandates, the Virginia Department of Health suspended my health department license. And in Virginia, your ABC license, your license to sell alcohol, is tied to your health department license. So once my health department license was suspended, my ABC license was automatically suspended.
Okay.
And then I was also fined over $70,000 from OSHA, the regulatory organization here in the United States. I was fined over 70 grand by OSHA for having an unsafe work environment. And that unsafe work environment was not making my employees wear a mask.
Yeah.
So it was, it was I didn't like what was it just didn't feel right. Something felt weird, out of place, and none of these mandates made any sense. So I continued. My wife and I made the decision to operate business as usual and not follow any of the mandates, and allow my customers and my employees to decide what they think is best for them. If you wanted to wear a mask, you're more than welcome to. If you don't believe that a piece of cotton saves you from a virus, if you have common sense, then you don't have to put one on.
Yeah.
But it was up to them, because what I was not going to do was be a part of stripping my customers' constitutional rights away from them. The Constitution is everything here in the United States of America. And if you don't have that here, you don't have anything. So
Mm.
I wasn't going to be a part of stripping them of their constitutional rights. And for that reason, they took my licenses away from me.
Can you tell me what it was like? Did you? I think when people took a stand during the restrictions in different ways, that at the beginning certainly felt very alone, that you were up against, you were the only bad one, you were the only disobedient one. You must follow what everyone else is doing. And then you begin to realize that there are many people who feel the same way and were standing up against in different ways. What about you as an individual, as a restaurant owner? Were you able to connect with others? What response did you get? What was that like from others? What kind of feedback were you getting?
Yeah, well, it's a very nerve-wracking decision,
Yeah.
to put your livelihood on the line. And that's what we were doing. My wife and I, we thought we were going to lose everything. We didn't know how the community would respond to what we were doing. In situations like this, and I know you've felt this way along the way, that you're the only one that realizes what's going on. Am I the only one that sees the ridiculousness of what's going on? I can't be. But you feel that way because everybody is just blindly complying with these ridiculous mandates. But as soon as it became public what we were doing at my restaurant, which is just allowing the citizens their freedoms that that God has given to them, the amount of support that followed was just amazing. It just blew me away. I had people flying to Virginia from all over the United States of America
Wow.
just to come to my restaurant and shake my hand and thank me for standing up. And um,
Wow.
and that let me know, okay, Matt, you're doing the right thing. You're not alone. You're not the only one that feels this way. Majority of people feel this way. They were just waiting for somebody to stand
Yeah.
up and fight so they could get behind them. And that's the point I realized. Okay, all right, maybe my country's not doomed. Maybe there is some hope. We can save things.
What support did you have politically? Uh, uh, because I mean, Virginia's weird. I'd never been to Virginia before. Uh, a month before I met you, and I got to see that Virginia is just actually like England. It could be in England driving through the country roads. But what was it like politically? Because you that was under a Democrat governor, but now you have a Republican governor. Virginia's kind of split. I know the Senate has often been 2020 and 1921. So certainly in the last maybe 30 years, it's fairly evenly split. What was the political response to what you were doing?
Yeah, well, Virginia is one of those swing states that flips back and forth, like you just
Mm,
said. Sometimes it's controlled by Democrats. Sometimes it's controlled by Republicans. And so in 2020, 2021, it was controlled by Democrats. And that's who came after me, was a Democratic governor. And we elected Governor Glenn Youngkin in 2021. And as you know, on the campaign trail, he took over in January of 2022. Um, on the campaign trail, he talked about how all of these COVID mandates were not only wrong, but they were detrimental to the
mm,
community. Um, and they were, especially our kids. I mean, they set our kids back decades in
yeah,
education,
yeah.
you know. And so he was in support of my stance and my fight of COVID mandates when he was on the campaign trail. I actually got a phone call from him. He left me a voicemail thanking me for standing up for the community. Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, Attorney General Jason Miyares, who both ended up winning as well, and are Republicans. They came to my restaurant when they were on the campaign trail in support of my fight that I was taking on.
Okay.
And, they all let me know, hey, listen, if we win these seats, anybody being prosecuted for COVID mandates, that's over with.
Mm.
We're going to allot you guys your constitutional rights. So they won. And from day one, I started reaching out to them. Hey guys, remember what you said on the campaign trail? Well, I'm still down here fighting COVID mandates. I'm still being prosecuted for them. And now it's under your administration. So I need you to do what you said you were going to do on the campaign trail, stand up for the people. Um, so one thing I learned through my fight against COVID mandates is that it's not just Democrats running this country into the ground and running
Yeah.
the state of Virginia into the ground. We have a lot of Republicans doing the same damn thing.
Mm.
And that uniparty that you hear about,
Yeah.
it's real. Once you get into politics and this Democrat and Republican leadership, they're one and the same. They both want the same thing, and that's control. And that's total and complete control. And I don't believe either one of them believe that the government and the country as a whole belongs to the people. They believe that they control things and that you answer to them and not the other way around. And unfortunately for them, that's not the way things were set up to be. That's not what our forefathers envisioned when they created this country. So when I realized that, and the way I realized that is because I reached out to all of my local Republican representation to help me fight because they
Mm.
said that they were conservative patriots that were about the Constitution. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, listen, I'm fighting for the Constitution. I need your help. And none of them reached back out to help me. None of them reached back out until I beat the Virginia Department of Health in court and won my case. Then
Tell
they
us about that. That's fantastic. Tell us how you did that.
Yeah, so they came at me from those three ways. Like I said, Virginia Department of Health, the ABC, and OSHA. And first up was the Virginia Department of Health. We went to court and we beat them. We proved that these mandates were in fact unconstitutional, and they had to give me my health department license back.
Wow. Wow.
So then next up was the ABC, and we go before the ABC board and we say, hey, ABC, you took my liquor license away from me only because the health department took my health department license away from me. Well,
Mm.
we beat them in court and they had to give me my health department license back. So common sense would say that you would have to give me my ABC license back, right? Well, it's a very liberal Democrat ABC board. And they said, hey, Matt, bottom line is this. It doesn't matter why we took your ABC license. The fact is that we took it. It doesn't matter if it was unconstitutional or not. We took it and you didn't comply.
Wow.
And that word comply kept coming up. And they said, so for that reason, we're not giving it back to you. It's going to stay suspended for 90 days. And you owe us $15,000. And I said, absolutely not. You're not getting a dime from me. And my license will not be suspended for any amount of days. If you don't want to give me my license back, then I don't need a license. I'll continue to operate without it. And I've always followed every law that I agreed to follow, when I obtained my ABC license and when I obtained my health department license. But what I will not follow is unconstitutional mandates. So we beat OSHA as well. They, like I said, they fined me 70 grand, but they tapped out as soon as we beat the Virginia Department of Health. So we beat them, didn't pay them a dime. And then so through all of this, when I started realizing that these Republicans are just as corrupt as Democrats,
Yeah.
I started thinking, how do I change this? How do I save my country? And the only conclusion that I could come to is me stepping up and running from one of these seats myself
Yeah.
and making sure a true representative of the people takes at least one of these seats. And so that's when I announced my run for state Senate here in Virginia. And since I announced my run for state Senate, I've been very vocal on social media and in interviews like this about how corrupt not only Democrats are, but Republicans as well. And the Republican leadership, they don't like that. When you're a candidate and you're running for the Republican Party and you don't toe the line, they don't want you to be elected. And for that reason, Governor Glenn Youngkin didn't follow through on his promise when he was running for governor. He didn't reach back out and help me fight COVID mandates. He continued to allow me to be prosecuted for not following COVID mandates, even under his administration. And he was hoping that I would get smashed and that it would come to a point where I I would eventually be charged with crimes, and I wouldn't be able to run for state senate anymore, because the last thing they want is somebody like me taking the state senate seat and pushing back against the system. But what he didn't realize is how viral my story would go. And so what happened about 2 months ago is the Virginia State Police and the Virginia ABC, they raided my restaurant for not following COVID mandates 2 years ago. They raided my restaurant and they took every drop of alcohol out of my restaurant. And I live streamed that as it was happening.
Yeah.
And it went absolutely viral across the entire nation. And they weren't expecting that.
Mm. No, tell me. I just wanted to put up that's the website, and that's what people can see, and they can follow you, they can donate, all of that. But I think that that raid happened. I was there and came to see you. It was just after 2 days after, you had been. I think it was something you were closed because had been so busy. The people had shown their support that they'd cleared you out, that you'd actually had such a bumper business, and that shows the public support you have, which I guess emboldens you to go forward and actually successfully stand and actually make a difference as a senator in Virginia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so that raid happened on a Friday. Um, Saturday, my restaurant was filled from open to close,
Right.
lines out the door with patriots who were just fed up, that saw what happened to me on that live stream, and that realized, hey, we don't have to look to China to see something like this going on. It's going on right here in our backyard. The government is coming and stripping a man of his livelihoods for not following mandates that have already been proven to be unconstitutional. It's happening right here in our backyard. And the story just went viral. And so what happened from that point is I had supporters from across the nation inundating the governor's office and the attorney general's office with emails, phone calls, social media posts. The governor couldn't make a social media post without people jumping on there saying, hey, what about Matt Strickland? And what about Gore Meltz? This
Right.
man's restaurant was just raided for COVID mandates. And you're supposed to be a conservative Republican that's supposed to be standing up against these mandates. Where are you at?
Mm.
And so the only thing that these politicians, the only thing they answer to is political pressure.
Yeah.
So my supporters nationwide put enough political pressure on the governor's office that he had no choice but to respond. And he has presidential aspirations. So, everybody knows Youngkin will be running for president.
Mm.
And when people across the nation let him know, hey, we're watching you. We see what's going on in your state. You can't even control the state of Virginia. How do you expect to be my president? And that's when he responded. And they kept trying to settle with me, and I told them there is no settlement. They would say, instead of a 90-day suspension, okay, no suspension, and just give us like $2,000. And I've always stood firm, and I said, listen, you're not getting a dime from me.
Yeah.
I will not pay you a dime, and I will not serve any suspension. And I told my lawyer, I said, hey, listen, this was the beginning of December that this happened. I said, listen, I'm going to give them until Christmas to get their stuff together. I'm going to close my restaurant on Christmas, obviously, so my employees can spend time with their families. But when I open up after Christmas, I will open my bar back up, and I will be selling alcohol, regardless of if they give me my license back or not. At that point, I'm assuming they'll come and arrest me. So if they're ready for the political storm that comes from arresting a veteran that has served his country his whole life, if they're ready for that political storm, I'm ready to go to jail.
Yeah.
Because I've been ready to die for my country since I was 17 years old. So don't think I won't go to jail for my country, because I absolutely will. And miraculously, they came back and they said, okay, December 23rd, before Christmas, we're going to give you all of your alcohol back. We're going to give you your license back, and you don't have to pay us a dime. So we won. We beat them. So we beat OSHA. We beat Virginia Department of Health, and we beat the Virginia ABC. And the only reason we beat them is because we stood together as Americans. We stood together as one, in unison, in unity. And we fought back, and we simply said, no, we will not allow this to happen anymore. If you're not going to give us our freedoms, we're going to take them. And that's what we need to do from now on when this happens again, because trust and believe, Peter, you know as well as I do that this will happen again in one way, shape, or form. This was not the last time they're going to try to strip us of our freedoms.
Tell us about, as we finish up. Tell us the process this year, how it plans out. Again, uh, many of our viewers will not be American, so tell us how it will work out, and then I guess what people can find on the website and how they can support you.
Yeah, well, so I'm running for state senate here in Virginia, and it's a very important position, one of the most important positions I truly believe in the country, because you control elections, you control so much at the state level.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to do is make sure our elections are secure, because right now in the state of Virginia, they're not. You can go vote without an ID, Peter. Which, how can you tell me an election is secure when I don't even have to show my ID to vote? That's insane. So, because I push back against both parties, I don't consider myself a Democrat, a Republican, an independent. I am just an American patriot. That's it. That's all I am. That's where it starts. That's where it stops. And because of that, I'm fighting a war on two fronts. I'm fighting the Republican establishment, and I'm fighting the Democrats as well.
Yeah.
So I need all the help I can get. I will win this race. I've got the support of the people. They know who I am, and they know what I stand for, and they know how hard I'm going to fight for them. But I need all the help I can get from anybody who supports what I'm about, supports my fight, and that wants to see not just Virginia or America change for the better, but the world. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and it takes incremental change. It doesn't happen overnight. So I'm in a primary against another Republican, and that primary is going to be June 20th.
Okay.
Early voting for that starts May 6th. And then next up will be the general election in November. And if anybody wants to support my campaign and send a true patriot to one of these seats, they can visit the website, as you said, which is mattforva.com. And also give me a follow on social media at mattforva. Anything helps. I mean, obviously campaigns are expensive, which I hate that part about it. There's no reason why campaigns should be as expensive as they are. But the truth of the matter is that they are. So if anybody's in a position to donate to the campaign, it'd be much appreciated. If you're not, I truly understand that, because we're in tough times right now. What you can do is you can spread the word for me, especially if you know anybody here in the state of Virginia, anybody back here in the U.S. Just spread the word for me and let people know, hey, true patriots are coming, and we're coming to take our country back. And we're working with other patriots around the world to take the world back, because it's important that we do it now. We don't have much time left. I truly believe that this next couple years is going to be pivotal for God-fearing Christians that want to actually make a difference and save the world.
Could I finish off just by asking you? You talked about God-fearing Christians. As a Christian, that you bring a certain worldview and you bring values. Tell us what it means for you as a Christian you've served your country militarily, and now looking forward to serving your country politically. What kind of Christian values do you bring then as a candidate to that political position?
Well, as a Christian, our faith is built on principles. So if you look at the 10 Commandments, all those are principles. And even if you don't consider yourself a Christian, you just, you say, hey, I'm a good person. I believe, there's a higher power than us, but I don't consider myself a Christian. I hear that a lot. But what you can't deny is that the Christian faith was built on a set of principles that is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Christians, our faith is about treating everybody as an equal and making sure everybody respects and loves each other. And that's what I bring. I don't care what your religion is. If you're not a Christian, I'm not going to ostracize you. I'll tell you about my Christian faith, and I hope you understand that, and maybe want to learn more about it. But if you don't, you're still my brother. You're still my sister, and I'm not going to leave you behind. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, gay or straight. Doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure that the Christian values that this country was built on, because it was, stays at the forefront of what the United States of America is about, and that is keeping God first and following the principles that God told us to follow, which is, in essence, the 10 Commandments. Just be a good person to each other.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. I'll certainly be rooting for you, praying for success in that primary in June and the full general election in November. I know that we'll speak again. And can I just say to our viewers and listeners, do make sure and go to Matt's website, mattforva.com. Maybe you're listening and haven't seen what's up on the screen. All the links are in the description. So if you're listening on Podbean, the podcasting apps, just click on mattforva.com or follow Matt on @mattforva on Twitter. Please do go make use of that and follow Matt as he works towards that election in November. Matt, just thank you once again for your time. It's great to talk with you and to hear about your backstory and what you're working towards. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Well, thank you, Peter. I mean, it was great meeting you when I met you. I'm glad I met you. You are a true patriot of the world. And I appreciate everything that you do to make this world a better place and to have the platform that you have, because mainstream media, they filter the news and they only put out what they want you to know. They don't put out the truth. And for you to have the platform that you do, and you make sure that the truth gets out, whatever that truth may be. You don't give your opinion. You report facts and let people decide for themselves. And that's what's missing in today's mainstream media. So thank you so much for what you do. I'm glad I met you, and I'm proud to call you a brother.
Well, we will meet again, and part of what I do, it's great meeting people, and it was an honor to be introduced to see your business, to see it being so successful, and to follow your campaign. And that was the end of last year, and I know that we will, I'm sure, meet again this year when I'm over next. But we'll certainly follow closely, and we all wish you the absolute best with your campaign and expect you to be one of those 40 in the Senate after November. So thank you so much for joining us. I'll say bye to our viewers and listeners. Thank you for joining us. Make sure and follow all the links in the description, and we will certainly keep you posted. We will certainly repost what Matt is doing as we follow him closely here at Hearts of Oak as the year develops. So thank you for tuning in. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you on Saturday for our next news review. So thank you so much.